tubes are warming up.
This is a special live broadcast right here on Georgia Radio.
All right, this is Wade. You're with us here with Matt Jolly on Georgia Radio's Georgia Folk and Farm Life Radio show each and every Tuesday night at 7:30. And if I told you 7, I was wrong. I told some people this week that we were on at 7, so it's 7:30. But we're glad to be here tonight and glad you joined us, and hope you'll join us each and every Tuesday night. And for the podcast, we had the show will be podcasted, and we'll give you the information on that later. And tonight, I am proud to have my first guest, Fay Stapleton Burnett. And Fay is an old friend and schoolmate. She's from Metter, and she married Brock Burnett, and they lived in Winder for many years. And she is retired, as my dad would say, tooth dentist. And Brock, her husband, is a retired Presbyterian minister. Is that right, Fay?
That's right, Presbyterian.
Okay. And when we were in school, Fay I used to say, was the smartest girl in my class. And I had to redo that and say she was the smartest person, because that's just not the way back then, that was a compliment. Today, not so much. So Fay was the smartest person in my class, and she was a sweet girl, too. And she still is. And she's a mother and grandmother, and she enjoyed being retired. They got many interests. I know Brock has beekeeping and other things, and gardening, and growing sugar cane. But Fay has, in her retirement, I think she's probably working harder than she ever has. Am I right?
Well, I'm working harder in a way, but I'm doing it at my own pace and my own time, which makes life a joy.
Good. I want to mention that you've written a book. You have a great interest in history, but your family, I've joked before on Georgia Folk and Farm Life about how everybody in my family was poor, and back during the war, they was always buck privates. But Fay has some illustrious ancestors, you know. The Stapletons were, they were pillars of communities. They were preachers and planters and movers and shakers and builders and doers. And I think my family mostly worked for her family. That's pretty much it.
well, I have some interesting characters in my family historically and currently, and I think that's because my ancestor. My third great grandmother was half Irish, so I think that's where we get our little Irish disposition from. I'm gonna blame it on that.
Right. Well, I knew your mother, Miss Sunell. Your daddy was Leroy Stapleton, and your mom, Sunell Stapleton. And y'all were kin to half the people in Georgia, not just this part, but all over. But Miss Sunell she knew who y'all were kin to, and people came to her for that information, and it's followed you into your generation. I know people come and ask you how y'all are kin and how they are kin to others, and that's a gift. That's a good Southern thing to perpetuate that genealogical knowledge.
Well, it when you meet somebody, Brock and I kind of don't meet any strangers. I just ask them where they're from and who their daddy. That's how you act in the South. And it's
who's your daddy is his classic introduction. Who's your daddy? What did he do?
Well, and we've discovered when you ask somebody where they're from and they hesitate, they're usually a military kid, because they don't. So the question is not where are you from, then you move on to where do you want to be buried, because that's really where you consider home. That's my opinion. You're
right about that, Fay. I had to really talk about that. It's one of those things but you never really thought about. But yeah, where you want to be buried, and that says a lot about where you're from. Not necessarily in actuality, but where you wish you were from, or where your family was from, and you consider that that's a part of you, even though you may not have lived there.
That's right. Well, Wade, I just want to say before I get too deep into this show that I don't have a visual fact checker, but I know that you and Matt asked for me to be hooked up to a tiny electrode. So if I say anything that's not true tonight, I'm going to get a slight shock. So everything I'm going to say is gospel truth. And Wade, I look back today, just thinking about tonight, and I found our annual from 1976 at
Burn
David
it, please.
Daniel
Would you
Academy.
please burn it for me when you destroy it?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I said, would you please burn that annual?
Oh,
for
no.
me?
What I was going to say, I did not remember, Wade, it's been 45 years, that you and I were elected or nominated to be the most likely to be on a radio show one day. How could I forget that?
Are you serious? You're not serious.
Okay.
I fell for it, Fay. Okay, you got it. Yeah.
Okay. And Wade, I do think at some point we need to discuss about how the name for your group came about. Now, how did you recall that happening?
Well, I know, in case people don't know, why you're my first guest. You and my friend Randy Olive, and I say goaded, but it sounds better to say y'all inspired me to start Georgia Folk and Farm Life, the Facebook group. And I think earlier in the week I told you, I said, that makes you the grandmother of the group, and you said you like godmother much better.
Yeah, no, I like godmother. Yeah.
And, I don't. Randy's not going to care what I call him. I've called him so many things.
Yeah.
but yeah. So you're the godmother of the group, and when this started, it's been about 5.5 years ago. I had been on Facebook for a while, and I always had an interest in all kind. I'm a strange individual, and I had a unique interest in many things. I have an eclectic brain. It's defective eclectic, I think.
Oh, you're too kind, Wade. Go ahead.
Yeah, and so I had been posting things that kind of historically on and you and Randy both said I should start a group, but go ahead and fill in the blank there with the rest of what you recall.
You mean about how the name came about?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's kind of odd, but this is how I remember it. Brock and I were eating at Peggy's restaurant in Rennes. And a man, this was before COVID, and I could sense that a man was coming up behind me, sniffing my hair. And I mean, you know who I thought it was, but it wasn't him. And I turned around, it was Al Gore. Mm-hmm. Really. And so,
this was right after he invented the internet and stuff. Well,
yeah, I went over to him when he was eating because nobody was paying him any attention. And so I asked him.
I could see that.
I said,
Al Gore and Ren's not being a big deal yet.
Yeah, I said, Mr. Gore, since you invented the internet, I said, I have a friend down there in Emmanuel County that wants to create a Facebook page, and he wants it to be about people like on the farm and what their life was like, and folks that would be from Georgia. I said, do you have any suggestions about what he can name this page? And Mr. Gore said, you mean like Georgia Folk and Farm Life? And I said, well, yeah. And he said, well, I'm sorry, I don't have any idea what you can name your page. And so we parted, and I thought that was the end of it, but as it turns out, it worked out. Okay.
I had forgotten that part completely. How I forgot that, I don't know. But okay. This is the official dictionary genesis of the name.
Yeah, it
Al Gore named it at a restaurant.
Well, and it ended up, I had to pay for his meal because they don't take Bitcoin at Peggy's and Ren's. Right. So, but I can understand why.
They take Bitcoin, but they don't give change, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And that could be a big deal with Bitcoin these days.
Yeah.
If you pay with Bitcoin, you want your change. So
that's right. But, Wade, you're talking about where people are buried. I
know where some are buried, but I can't say.
Yeah, that's right.
That's that's another story there. Go ahead.
We had I went to a Hendricks family reunion here Sunday down here at Upper Lots Creek Church, right over the line. Beautiful place in Bullitt County. And there was this part is true. Now the Al Gore that wasn't, but anyway.
You're kidding me. Yeah. People are just falling off their chairs right now.
Yeah, that's right. But there's a man buried in a family cemetery, the Hendricks family cemetery, a Mr. Welch, back in the 1878. And this is true. It's a mystery of why this man was buried there. We can't, they couldn't figure it out. And so I started digging around. He died at the home of a.
You mean literally or figuratively?
No, he literally. Yeah, he's literally buried. But he
you
died.
Were digging, you said digging around.
Well, not no. You know, I don't go out there in the cemetery much digging. But anyway, I started looking back in records. He died at the home of a Primitive Baptist preacher, and when I started doing research, I discovered that he had been the keeper of a pool hall in a saloon in Savannah in a hotel. So that kind of made him questionable. So I am truly serious when I say this. I think they wouldn't let him be buried at the Primitive Baptist Church Cemetery. So they buried him at a private family cemetery, because I'm sure if you kept a pool hall in a saloon, they weren't going to let you be buried. And I mean, I'm being serious. And you know what I'm talking about, Wade.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was different back then, but and you know what, Fay, speaking of cemeteries, I am so Southern, and I know you are too, and there's some of our listeners out here that are so Southern that we will traipse through a cemetery that we've never even been to, or nobody we know buried out of town, a foreign, so to speak, cemetery. Oh, that's a nice old cemetery. I want to stop and walk through it, and I'll have a ball just walking through, looking at tombstones in a cemetery that I have no relation to. Well, the same as if it was the family cemetery. That's how Southern I am. You know? Yeah,
and I think there's two kinds of people like you and me that love going there, and people that wouldn't be caught dead there. If that, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like if you like liver and onions, you either love it or hate it. And we like cemeteries, you know.
Yeah, I've enjoyed walking through many a cemetery, you know. So it's now speaking of that reminds me, you wrote a book. And it's the name of the book. If any of you all out there would like to get the book and read, it's a good book. The Hanging of Susan Everhart by Fay Stapleton Burnett, and it chronicles. Fay, I'll let you tell. No, I won't. I'm going to tell it myself. You were doing research on your great grandfather George Stapleton, right?
Yeah, second great-grandfather.
Great, okay. And who was a illustrious figure, as like everybody else in your family. But he had you found a tie-in between where he was associated with the hanging of Susan Everhart, who was the first or second woman to be hanged in Georgia.
Yeah, she was. This was, you know, Wade. We talk about family lore and oral history, and this was a story I'd never heard any mention of in my family's history. But I found one little mention in a newspaper that he said the prayer when this white girl was executed for murder down in Preston, Georgia. That's in Webster County. And I thought that was so odd because it was so far away from where he lived, and I had no idea. But it was him, and then that led me to try to find out why was he there and what the story was. But there's only been ever 4 white women executed in Georgia, and she was number 3. And number 2 was Polly Barkley over in Wilkes County, and my friend Skeet Willingham just wrote a book about that case. That was in 1806. So took from
what year was Susan Everhart hanged?
1873. And if you want to say what the significance of that case was when the governor let a white woman be executed, he fell from all political favor. And every subsequent governor knew that if he let one be executed, he would be, you know, gone from politics. So it took the 4th one, the one after Susan Everhart, it took until 2015 before another white woman. Now, there was some black women that were executed, not a massive number.
And sadly, that was not seen, and that's a sad commentary on the way of life at that time. That was not, you know, considered. It was a separate issue. Really. Yeah.
It was. You know, the thing. There's just a lot of interesting things. It's a very dark topic, honestly.
Yes.
I would have never cared to research it if there hadn't been a family link to it. Right. But honestly, the ramifications about justice and mercy I'll just say it, Wade. I said, people like to wear the T-shirt that has justice on it. But if you stand guilty before a judge or the Lord, you better have a T-shirt in your closet that says mercy, because the last thing you want is justice. If you get justice from the judge and you're guilty, you're going down,
Yeah.
So
she was guilty.
She was probably guilty to some degree, probably not the same. But, that what was interesting is that the older men and the older Christian men of the community did not want to see her hanged because they thought that she was not guilty to the same degree. And they didn't want to see the man hanged because he was mentally ill. And so, mental illness, whether it's 1873 or 2021, is still not really fully understood.
All right, we'll move on from that. I don't want to, depress everybody.
Yeah, I know.
But I wanted, but you told me that Brock was growing sugar cane, and I know people are a lot of people growing sugar cane. That's one thing. Syrup making and cane syrup is never gone away, and a lot of our old traditions have, but there's still a good number of people who grow cane and then make syrup. Some people grow cane and don't make syrup, and we were talking earlier about it. I love a cane grinding, and you said that Brock was growing cane, but he was mostly going to let people, get the cane for the juice or to chew it. And I said, and I'll say this on the air, and I might get tarred and feathered for it, but there are certain things that shock people. I'm supposed to be so Southern, but I don't like cane juice. I like to chew cane, but if you squeeze out a jug of cane juice and pour it in a jug and expect me to drink it, no. And
do you like the syrup? Do you like the syrup?
Love the syrup. Syrup is I love cane syrup, and I love to go to a syrup boiling, and I love helping make syrup. But the cane juice needs to all go into the boiler and be cooked down in the syrup. That's God's elixir.
Well, this is Brock's first year growing sugar cane. He got his start from a sweet little man over in Statesboro named Lee Johnson, and Brock's a beekeeper, and so he gave Lee Johnson a beehive, and Lee Johnson gave him a start of sugar cane, and it really likes it here where we're living on Rosemary Church Road in Metter, Georgia, and it's doing great, so we can't wait to get it cut and see what we're going to do with it.
I had some friends that were cut his finger pretty bad and had to go to the doctor this week with stripping sugar cane. I don't know if a lot of people have done it. You use it's literally a cane stripper. It has two blades that kind of bolted to each end of each side of the end of a handle, something like a tobacco stick or whatever. And they're curved blades, and they're pretty sharp. And it's work. Dealing with cane work, from growing it to topping it, stripping it, and cutting it, and stacking it, hauling it, and but it's well worth it.
It's a lot of fun, and I do want to tell you something while we're talking about being out here on the farm. Wade, you probably didn't know this, but did you know that buzzards can get COVID too?
No, but Fay, that would be something you would know, and that doesn't surprise me.
The reason I can't.
Al Gore told you that, or
no, I can't say it with 100. Well, I can't tell you who, but. Anyway, we've got a dead deer right here in front of our house on Rosemary Church Road that's been there over a week. And the buzzard, and it's stinking to high heaven, well, we think somebody hit it with a car, but we didn't call the coroner. I mean, it could have been that somebody placed it there to look like it was hit by a car. I don't know. But, or it could have just died from natural causes by the road. But anyway, it's stinking. I don't know if it's a buck or a doe, because I don't want to get all into that either. But anyway, I'm not kidding. This is true. Now, I'm not kidding you, Wade. The buzzards are not cleaning it up. Now, what's up with that? They can't smell it? It stinks.
Oh, you think they've had COVID and lost their smell?
I do. I do think they've had COVID. Or either they're just getting paid not to work. I'm not sure about that. But anyway.
It might not be ripe yet,
Oh, it's right. Come by.
Matt I think Matt probably pulled the plug, and we had it on there for the last 10 minutes.
No. And it would be, see, we had open house here Sunday. Okay, look, we had an open house here at the farm Sunday. So always when you're going to have company, something around your place dies and stinks. You know, isn't it just the way?
As David Gower, yeah. Yeah. So I like the fact that you have those defective buzzards there. And that doesn't surprise me at all. That you have those.
Yes. Hey, you know, now are you going to give the number, Wade?
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
See, now this is why you have me here. You need a woman around you.
She is my guest, and I'm supposed to be the radio guy here. But our number is 678-390-8633. If you want to call in and talk to Fay or me, just give us a call at 678-390-8633 here on Georgia Radio. It's Georgia Folk and Farm Life Radio show.
Hey, Wade, it's Matt here. By the way, that number is on the website, so you can. Okay.
And you mentioned the plug. I figured you might have you didn't pull the plug on any of that.
No. The number's on there. That was a great idea. Someone said, why don't you put the number on the website? Like, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do that. So there you go. It's on the website. So the show is podcast now. You can hear it if you just go and hover over the. If you hover over the top of the page, it'll say more, and then there's a drop-down menu that says podcast and also how to get a hold of us. If you're on your phone and you're looking at it, it looks like three little lines. That's how they do it on the mobile apps. It looks like three little lines. That's the menu on the right-hand side, and you just go down there. We'll make it available. It's not up on iTunes yet. It will be by tomorrow, and then it'll be wherever podcasts are at, probably by tomorrow or the next day. But right now you can hear last week's show and share it. That's the important thing. Please share it with all your friends right there on, on the web if you can.
Wade, can I make one comment about the family reunion?
Yeah, you're going to. Yes. Okay.
What I was going to tell you is I go to the Hendricks family reunion, but I'm not really a Hendricks. My granddaddy's first wife was a Hendricks, and then, when she was passed away, he married my
Hendricks.
Yeah. So, here in the South and in Georgia, you don't actually have to be that. You don't have to have DNA from that family to show up at the family reunion. If you're kind of kin by marriage or kind of just somebody they like, you can go to the family reunion. And family reunions used to be, 150, 200 people. And let me tell you something. If you hadn't been to a family reunion in Georgia where they got covered dish, every woman there is trying to show off how great a cook she is. And it's just honestly the best food you'll ever put in your mouth.
Okay, that is
you will agree.
Yeah. Yep.
But sadly, family reunions of that nature have kind of fallen by.
Yeah, we they're like family reunions and week-long revivals and pond fishings and big cane grind things that used to be well attended. We always had in the Townsend reunion, my mother's reunion was always a big crowd. But you talking about all of them bringing food? There was one woman and that was related to us that. She came, she never cooked anything. She just come and haul off about half the food. She was getting, for her husband, Matthew, he wasn't able to get out. And I think for an old invalid, he sure ate a lot because she would come in and just, like a whirlwind and load up half the food and leave. I got to get back to, take Matthew's food. But
Well, Wade, let me just tell you, having been married to a preacher for 39 years now, and I bet you I've been to 1,000 covered dish dinners at church. I could write a book about what goes on in a kitchen before, during, and after a covered dish dinner. But honestly, even if I changed the names, everybody in Winder and Greensboro would know who I was talking about.
Right.
Well, I can tell you one. There was a man in Greensboro, and I won't name him, but he is dead now. He would bring a bucket. He was an old bachelor. He would bring a bucket to cover dish and ask for like leftovers and scraps. he claimed he was going to feed them to his dog, but we knew that wasn't true.
He didn't have a dog.
I don't think he had a dog.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, but I could write some stories.
Those old bachelors, some of those old bachelors, they would eat it, whatever they could get. They were glad to get it.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, I'll tell you a quick story. It makes me think about, I had two, my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, Maybelle Poole Peoples. She had three brothers, Roy, King, and Joe, and Uncle King married, but his wife died young, and he moved back in with his brothers, and they never married they always lived together, and people used to jokingly call them the Poole sisters.
Yeah.
And they never owned an automobile or never drove, or they just walked everywhere they went. And after Uncle King, Joe died, and then it was just Uncle King and Uncle Roy when I was young, and they would walk. They lived way out in the country. They had their old ways of doing things. If they came for Sunday dinner, they wouldn't let Daddy pick them up. They walked to the house, and they knew just how they walked so much in their lives. They knew exactly what time to leave, and they would get to leave their house in time to be at our house on time, and then they would come and eat, and then they would allow Daddy to drive them home, and that was the kind of the unwritten rules, etiquette there of old bachelors, farmers like. And I remember Uncle Roy, he didn't have any teeth, and Mama used to make this ground beef and flour, gravy, and sour cream together, kind of like a poor person's stroganoff, and he loved that. And Mama used to fix him a little small pail of that to take home with him, and I remember how much he enjoyed that. But yeah, there's some. I had an Uncle Lit Peoples. He was a great uncle, and he was not quite right, but he was a lovable character, and he would just show up at some of the friends or family's house for Sunday dinner, and uninvited, and they always glad to see him, poor Uncle Lit. But he would ask if they had cake or pie for dessert. The reason he asked, because if they had cake or pie, he would save his greens, his mustard, or his turnips to eat with his dessert. Well, but if they didn't have dessert, he would just go ahead and eat his greens with a meal.
Well, let me tell you something, Wade. I see that nobody's called in. It's not that they don't want to; they're just afraid because they know if they call in, it could go on like
and it's also, I forgot to give out the number till the end of the show. That could have. I think Matt probably would explain to me when you need to give the number at the beginning of the show. Wait,
maybe we can get one caller tonight. That would be fun. But I'm sure I'm looking at the numbers here. There's a bunch of people tuned in tonight, and we're glad they're here. People
are shy about calling in, and I want you to call in. That's going to be a big part of this show is people calling in. So don't be shy. Call us and give us as we say in Georgia, the lowdown on how we're doing.
Yeah, there you go. You want to take let's take this call right here and see who's on. Okay. Let's let me see here. I can mash the right button, as you'd say.
Mash it.
Here we go. Yes. Caller, you're on the air.
Okay, just wanted to call and say I enjoyed the show. It was good to hear voices to go with names that I see on the group. And I don't know why people are being so bashful and not calling or commenting on the webpage, but I enjoyed the show, and thanks for doing it.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you. Do you mind telling us who you are, or do you rather just remain anonymous?
No, this is Wanda Perkins Dribbling.
Where do you live? Where do you live?
In LaGrange, Georgia.
LaGrange, great.
That's not too far from my farm in Carrollton.
That's correct.
Yeah. Well, great to have you calling in tonight. You know, us Western Georgia folks have to stick together. You know, we really, because.
Well, I'm actually from Statesboro, though.
Oh, well, see, there you go.
Hey, listen, I'm sitting here in my farmhouse 14 miles from Statesboro, right over the county line in Candler County.
Yep. I had relatives that lived in Fillmore.
Oh, that's where Wade and I went.
Like, was Wynn Perkins, you related to Wynn Perkins?
That's him.
How were you related to William?
Well, it's, we were a big family, and he was the child of one of the brothers who was one of them was my great grandfather, and one of them was his father.
I know some others over there. Okay.
Yeah, and he had a daughter that
started the poultry place that is Crider Poultry
exactly.
today.
Right,
Yep.
and his wife was a Brinson, who her father was a sawmill, ran a sawmill.
Well, the Bransons also had a railroad there too.
That's right, and the Perkins actually were involved in building the railroads too during the Civil War to move timber for building forts and what have you. But yeah, it's a we're all related down there somewhere or another if we go back far enough.
I think Faye's related to the Brensons
anyway,
too. Faye, related to the Brensons?
Yeah, I'm related to the Brensons. My ancestors were up there in Burke and Jefferson County. Moses Brenson. You're going back a long time. Down at Ways Baptist Church. Ways Baptist Church.
That's a
well, my many great grandmothers was a Brenson. She was Fairby Brenson.
Yeah, Stellaville. I said the wrong word. Yeah. Well, nice to meet you.
But they were from outside of Millen, near where Magnolia Springs is the area that they came from. In fact, Perkins, Georgia is named for them.
Know where Perkins is. Well, Wanda, you've been a great group member for years. You've been with us. You've been here a long time. How long do you know when you?
Oh goodness, I have no idea. At least 2 or 3 years.
Just hang on just a second. I will tell you. The day you joined, you said.
Oh, look at this. Wade's getting technical.
Wade.
Yeah, I could do this. I can tell any member ever wants to know how long they've been a member. I can tell them.
Probably about 2 years, I would think. Maybe not that long. I'm not sure.
Well,
it's great radio with you just digging around on the computer there, Wade. That's.
Yeah, I'm glad.
We
have this visual.
Yep. Yeah. Well, hey, thanks for calling in tonight, though. I'm glad you broke the ice tonight.
I've been a member since 2019.
December 13th, 2019.
That's right. Well, thanks again. Enjoy the show.
Have a great night.
Yeah, if that's we've done that before, where people just ask me on the group sometimes, how long have I been a member? And it got started one day, and everybody wanted to know. Well, 80,000 members, I can't answer. But I could. Wanda has been a member since December 13th, 2019.
Let's hear this voicemail. I think someone left a voicemail. I hope it's not. We'll see what happens here. Let's just see. Let's see if it says something here. No, they didn't leave one. If you do want to leave a voicemail, though, we'll play it on the air if you call in. But somebody there down in your way, 912, called in. Sorry we missed them. They can call back though if they want to, and we'll be sure to put them on.
Well, Fay is she's been a member since day one, April 28, 2016, and that's the day we started.
Was it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Been that long.
Man, there's a lot's happened since then.
Oh, yeah.
Let's take this caller here and see what they have to say. Caller, you're on the air. Well, if I can mash the button right, here we go. Let's try that one. Caller, you're on the air.
I hope it's not.
Turn your speaker down.
Faye.
Who is this?
Sure.
Just try and turn your speaker down a little bit, and we can hear you. Then you can listen through the phone.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. Go right ahead. You're on the air.
Hi, Faye. This is someone that you know quite well.
Okay.
You recognize this voice?
No, that's about a third of the state of Georgia. Can you be more specific?
Okay. A friend from Tift College.
Is this Deborah?
This is Deborah.
Oh my! Hey, girl.
I just love hearing your Southern tone again.
What's happening?
You know, I've been away for a while, so it sounds fun.
Good to hear from you, Deborah. Wade, Deborah's from Twin City area.
All right, what's your last name, Deborah? Do you want to say?
Stokes.
Stokes.
Yeah.
Deborah and I went to Tiff College, which was an all-girls Baptist college in Forsyth. It's now been taken over by the state of Georgia for the Department of Corrections, which is...
Yeah, they shut it down when y'all...
How ironic, right?
Y'all killed it. It was a venerable old ancient institution, and y'all...
Yeah.
Now, Barbara Stokes was a school teacher I knew. Were you related to Miss Barbara Stokes?
No relation to her.
Okay. Yeah, that's only stuff.
What year did you graduate high school?
Did I graduate? Well, I graduated the same year Fay did. Fay's a few months older than me. I'm going to bust right on air. We graduated in 1976.
Oh, about the same time.
Yes.
Yeah. My brother is Ivy Stokes. He played at Georgia Tech football.
I think I'm familiar with his name. Okay.
Yeah.
Deborah is probably too modest, but she is an excellent physician. So,
oh, really?
Yes, down in Tifton, Georgia.
Wonderful. We've got some. I tell you what, we've got some impressive members on our group, and you know, of course, you don't have to be some vaunted career professional. We've got some wonderful people on every strata of society, but we have a lot of professional people too, and we're proud of that.
Well, I think the most
people know.
Go ahead, Deborah. I'm sorry.
Being in the Midwest, I went to Michigan State and trained in Detroit. People from those cities, unless they grew up in Georgia, they have no idea of the Southern life.
It's true.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the most important thing is we have a lot of people from small town Georgia, and not just small town, but that were raised right, I'd say, with moral and ethical standards. And it doesn't matter how far you went in school. You can drop out in the second grade, but if you know right from wrong, that's what makes people. That's what makes Georgia special, I think.
Absolutely, it does.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know one of my friends from South Bend, when I moved to Tifton, she said, I'm going to ask my mother if we can drive down with you to Tifton. She said, I've never been south. Okay, so once we passed Macon, we stopped there, and we got to Tifton. It was in June, so you can imagine. She started fanning these little things, and she was like, what are those things? They're everywhere. They're in my nose and everywhere. I said, welcome to the South.
That's right.
Cross the gnat line. Yeah.
She had her first experience with gnats.
And, yeah, they don't have a gnat line in Yankee Land, and just one of the things that they miss out on.
The gnat line is moving further up in the state. I hate to say.
Yeah, everything is.
Like armadillos. But let me make one comment.
I know, really.
Yeah, Georgia, and specifically small town, because all I know is small town Georgia. I've never lived anywhere but Georgia. But growing up here in Metter, we were equally as comfortable going to visit the people down the road that didn't even have an indoor bathroom and lived in a little tiny wooden house without any kind of heat or air. As I could go visit Mr. Sam Fine, who was the wealthiest man in Metter. I enjoyed visiting both people equally as well. It didn't matter with me, and I think that can be lost sometime in the city. I think sometimes in the city people don't go, to different levels of socioeconomic. But when you live on a farm and you live on a dirt road, people just stop by and visit. It doesn't matter what they what they got or don't got. It just doesn't matter.
Right,
And I'll tell you, it's still that way to some degree out here in the country. It hasn't changed that much.
My grandparents, they lived out near El Bethel Church.
Yeah.
So they knew everybody, and everybody knew them. So
That's right.
People would stop by, lunch, supper, whatever. They just came and sat down at the table.
Absolutely.
Those times have passed.
To some degree, but I think that hasn't changed as much.
Well, I may interrupt you. The fact that Georgia Focus Farm Life has succeeded as well as it has and growing and still is because there are enough people left that want to keep that alive. That's a lot of what we do is perpetuate the old ways and the old things and talk about the old people and so there's
that's a great thing.
There's plenty of people out here that lament the loss of a lot of it, but try to keep as much of it as alive as possible, and they're doing a good job. We have a lot of great people still enjoying the things that made life great.
Well, Wade, let me just make a comment about what we're talking about being in the country and all. I contend that there is not too many 10-year-old boys alive that if their daddy would say, son, you want to go fishing, they'd put down that computer game and say, yes, sir, and head for the fishing pole or the cable.
You're right.
And so,
right.
A lot of it, I think they would take you up on the offer of going fishing, which has a lot of life lessons that can be learned that can't be learned playing a video game or being on a computer. That's just my opinion.
Fishing and fishing a lot of times today has to do with a lot, spend a lot of money. I remember my favorite fishing as a boy was walking barefoot with my great aunt. My great uncle was, we would go stay with them and we were boys. And my great uncle was blind, Uncle Dewey Poole, and he was a good man. But ain't none to live Poole, his wife, my maternal grandmother's sister, they had a pond over on their farm, and it was back in the old woods, back the old, old big timber with wiregrass, and there was not even a road to the pond. You had to walk through where the cows were, and we had tote poles and dig bait, and we would walk with her over through the woods to that pond, and that was some of the best fishing we ever did. And it was with poles we had cut, and made, and line we strung, and worms we had dug, and those are some good fishing trips with Ain't None Leah, and good conversation with a good Christian old soul, and
absolutely.
I would give anything to be able to be a boy again and go barefoot with my brothers with Ain't None Leah traipsing through the woods to that old pond that they had and catch some of those fish and those turtles.
Memories.
They are. Deborah, please call me sometime. You and I talk. I know Wade can't see that there's a somebody else a caller, but Deborah, thank you so much for calling. I can't wait to hear from some of our TIF friends.
I enjoyed the show.
Thank you so much for calling, Deborah. Bye.
I was afraid if Deborah stayed on any longer, Wade was going to ask her about a boil or something. Hey, so listen, this poor person from the 912 area code, call back, please call back. We just dropped him again, but call back. I'm going to wait. The phone is yours.
All right, Matt, I've got you back on my screen again. I was using a little
I'm going to turn.
mouse.
It's all right, but yeah, they can call back if they're so inclined. We only have one phone in here. It's got a string on it. And I've got to pull it real tight. So y'all call back if you want to call in. We'll see if they can.
Well, now I've got you on screen, and I will try to keep you on screen from now on. That way, you can. Radio works better if you can see the person that's producing the show, their instructions. Yeah. I have to get that shot collar we talked about.
I don't know if this caller left a voicemail or not. We can. I don't think they did. Let's just check. But no, they didn't. It says they did, but if they want to call back, they can. There they are right now. Wait, let's take the call here. I'm going to mash the right button and pull the string tight. Caller, you're on the air.
Hey, this is Richard Keeley down in Meldrum. I've been listening to Wade and the lady and you, and just having a good time.
Well, thank you. I don't know. We hadn't got a lot. I haven't got much feedback, and I don't know how we're doing. So it's good to hear a listener.
Yeah. I have enjoyed it, just like the Facebook group. And I know the Saturday we went up to Metter a while back and had dinner at the bunch of with some of you folks, friends, and at the buffet place, and that was such a good time.
We're going to do that again soon. We're going to do those are. I don't know, and maybe Matt can join us. Those are our Georgia Folk and Farm Life dinners, men's dinners. Mr. Leon Haddon memorial dinners, we call them. Mr. Leon was a good friend from Metter over there, and we used to meet with him, and then some of the guys did, and then he passed on, and we continue to have those men's dinners. And as we say, Mr. Leon Haddon memorial dinners, and we'll have another one soon, and I want you to join us, because we had a good time. That wasn't all of them are good, but that last one was very good.
Yeah, we had just everybody having a good time and talking and sharing things from the past and all. And like she was talking about the family reunions. My dad's family used to have theirs. His mother's side of the family would have theirs at Dasher's place on the Geechee River at Eden. And there was, and I'm not calling any names, but and that's all gone now. But one of the members the family members was a politician, okay, and they always had to wait until he got there to say the blessing and say a few words and say the blessing, and then it was all right to eat. And
it was official then. It was open, huh? That was it had the man from Washington's graces, and everybody. If you went away from there hungry, by golly, it was because you didn't go up to the long table there with all the food on it.
That's right.
But I'll go
that's
back
funny. I think
hearing
every family's reunion had someone that made it unique and special,
Yeah, absolutely. And I know on my mother's side of the family from over in Scriven County, there was one or two of the relatives that were always, they weren't politicians or anything, but they were the life of the party, if you will. There was one in particular that he always was cutting the food and making everybody have a good time. Young, old, it didn't matter, they all enjoyed him being around. But back to her book that she wrote, it's The Hanging of Susan. Is it Eberhart or Everhart?
Eberhart, Eberhart. And
okay, I got it right then.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, it sounds crazy to say it was fun, but when I went down there to Webster County, I didn't even know there was a county named Webster County. But I met some of my distant Stapleton cousins down there, and I have it's just made my life so much happier just knowing my relatives and down in that part of the state. But the family reunions, the reason you say, I'm kin, my husband says I'm kin to everybody, is because when you went to a family reunion, you went to 2 or 3, your mamas, your daddies, your grandmamas, your other grandma and daddy. So, I've known literally probably 1,000 people I'm kin to.
Fay, let me tell you. Fay, I had a fellow I know, I won't call names, a family member, that he used to go over to like George L. Smith Park and just walk in and walk in. People he didn't know they're having reunions. He just joined, and nobody ever called him on it. It was like the time I went to the wrong funeral home and didn't know the guy. That's a good story, Matt. Remind me to tell that story.
Maybe not on the air the first time, but I know how some of these guys.
It's terrible.
You're talking about being at the wrong place. I was home on leave from Charleston Air Force Base one time when I was a young troop, and went with a friend of mine over here to his family was over around Marlow here in Effingham County, and hey, come on, go to the family reunion. Okay. Well, I knew some of them, kind of, and this fella came over to me, and I wasn't in uniform or anything, but boy, you're looking, I hadn't seen you. You've grown up so much. And I finally had to tell her, I'm a guest here, sir. They fed good, though. They fed good.
Yeah, that's what
I was waiting for him to say, but we always remembered one eye was crossed. How did that go? Right.
You got that fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling in tonight. We appreciate it.
Okay. Well, I enjoyed it, and if I'm off next week, I'll try to listen in again. I don't have my work schedule for next week yet, but I will tell you one thing. The first woman hanged in Georgia was Alice Riley.
Yes.
And she was hanged in what's now Wright Square. It was Percival Square then in Savannah. Yes. She was hanged for murder. I worked for a ghost tour, and that's one of the stories that we tell, and I was in a play where I was the old man that she had murdered.
Yeah, and she was
right there, Matt.
There you go. Yeah, that would be a fun one, wouldn't it?
She was an Irish indentured servant, which is the equivalent of a slave. She was Irish.
Yes, and you know who she was indentured to? You know who paid her way? Oglethorpe paid James Oglethorpe paid her way over here.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Hold on just a second. I need to interrupt. I want to interrupt y'all. We've had someone send me a message asking to repeat the phone number because they didn't get it written down, and I'm going to...
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm sorry about your untimely death in the play. And I call back in next time. And listen, just so you know, that mobile app, you can listen on your phone. If you've got a phone that can do that kind of stuff, a smartphone or what, you can listen to us anywhere at any point. So you don't even have to, even if you're out, you don't have to miss it. But we appreciate you listening.
Yes.
The number.
All right. Thanks again for calling. All right.
Or you want me to do it, Matt?
Right.
You go right ahead, Wade.
All right. The number is 678-390-8633.
And we got about 5 minutes left because Wade's got to go to bed and he's got to drive the truck in the morning.
Yep. I have to go to Meldrum and do Marlow back and forth tomorrow. Yeah, places where our caller lived.
Yeah, but y'all call in tonight. I love that. I love it when the phones light up. The phone lights up. If we had more than one line,
the phone is lit up. Yes,
it would just take all the fun out of it if we, but the after hours.
The callers are lit up too.
Yeah, a few of them. About like that deer in your front yard, Fay, I think.
That's right.
We have a squirrel in our yard right now that's been dead. And I don't think the buzzards down here can smell worth a darn either because the squirrel is still out there.
That's right.
I think maybe just some squirrels that just have a sense of humor. They go that all the stuff that's out there in the middle of nowhere, they clean that up quickly. But it's like, oh, this is in some people's yard. Let's leave that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went out and poked on it. I thought it might have just been asleep, But
Matt, that when you just touched on, that's a topic sometime for a show is in rural Georgia, when people died unexpectedly, people of the official determination that they were dead was several people had to poke at them.
Yeah.
And I had a guy that, and Fay, I can't say, but you knew this guy. We went to school. He died, and when they called in to report that he had died. They asked him, "Are you sure he's dead?" "Oh, 2 or 3 of us done poked at him. He's dead."
They had poker.
They had it was kind of on the county line, and they had to call 2 different counties and discuss it, and they just got to. Well, look, we done told 2 or 3 folks we done poked at him. So and so done poked at him. He's dead. They were trying to decide whether they need a coroner or an ambulance, and they were telling me we need a coroner. It's official.
It's official.
He's been poked at. Yeah. He's dead.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're gonna knock it off here, Wade. We're just about out of time, even for the after hours. What do you think? Should we? I think we ought to just let this be the bonus episode, and then we'll leave it all on the podcast so people can maybe just hear what they missed this time and then call in. What do you think?
However y'all want to do it.
Well, will you come back on at some point, Fay?
I'll be glad to. I have. Is it always Tuesday night?
Well, until Wade gets tired and changes it. But yes, ma'am. Because you got church on Wednesdays.
I have one Tuesday night a month. I have committed. I'm not going to tell you to what, but anyway, no, I'm just kidding.
You're on call down there in Metter to go poke with. That sounded terrible.
Okay.
On that note, you want to say goodnight, everybody, Wade?
Good night, everybody, Wade.
There you go.
Good night.
So long, everyone.
Thank you, man.
You've been listening to the Georgia Folk and Farm Life Radio Show, heard every Tuesday night at 7:30 right here on GeorgiaRadio.com. Tune back in Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. for Neighbor to Neighbor with me, Matt Jolly. I'd love to have you come on and just talk about whatever's on your mind, neighbor to neighbor. And if you have something to buy, swap, or sell, call in with that too. Wednesday mornings, 10 a.m. for Neighbor to Neighbor. And the night before, Tuesday nights at 7:30, it's the Georgia Folk and Farm Life Radio program. Thanks again for listening to Georgia Radio, your home for good company and great country.
Georgia Radio. Everywhere you go.